Hello there. Today I want to talk about a Coteaux du Layon, particularly a Coteaux du Layon from Domaine de Clayou. Anybody who watched yesterday's video may remember I was also talking about a Coteaux du Layon from Domaine de Clayou. The point being that this is the 2016 vintage. The previous video was about the 2015 vintage. So the estate is a place called St Lambert de Lattay in the middle of the Coteaux du Layon region, which is in Anjou in the Loire Valley, I guess it's sort of central to western France, or western. And this is a region where they make sweet wines from, they also make dry, but on this occasion sweet wine, from the Chenin Blanc grape variety. So this is an estate run by Jean Bernard and Denis Chauvin. It's a small estate. They've got just over 40 hectares of vines. They run their since 2000. They've had their vineyards certified by Terra Vitis, which is a sustainability auditing organisation. So there's a certain amount of organic practice goes on, though I don't believe they're entirely organic. The wines are made relatively simply. They have concrete fermenters, which are epoxy-lined to make them completely neutral. They'll hand-pick everything, because Chenin needs hand-picking, because it's quite a delicate grape variety. It's a big berry. It breaks fairly easily if you try to machine pick it, and oxidizes as a result, so you don't want that. Gentle pressing to get fine juice. Fermentation with the ambient yeasts that either have come in from the vineyard on the grapes, or are already in the winery conducting fermentation. A relative amount of temperature control, not a lot. The wine stays in tank for 6 months with its yeast lees, and they're stirred up occasionally. They then filter the wine, put it back to age for longer, for 3 months more before bottling. So what is the difference between this and the 2015 that I've already spoken about? 2016, a good but not excellent vintage. What happened in 2016 was that they had some frosts in April, and that hit yields. The amount of fruit they had was reduced. So relatively dry year. So although the area has quite a lot of small valleys with rivers, there wasn't an awful lot of precipitation to engender botrytis. So there's a small amount of botrytis, but not a lot. So a good and much more typical vintage than 2015, which was excellent and where there was lots of botrytis and the wines were very, very rich. I mean, just as far as the quality level of this is concerned, Coteaux du Layon, quite a big area. I think it's something like 17,000 hectares of vines there, but it's divided up. So you've got the top level wines of Côte des Charmes and Bonnezeau that are entitled to their own appellation. You have a number of villages that are entitled to give their name to cuvées. So St Lambert, where these guys are, is one of those, but this isn't named as a St Lambert. They do produce wine in that quality range, but this isn't it. This is just an entry-level Coteaux du Layon. So I'm expecting some sort of typicity here. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? I mean, the first thing to say is the colour. Compared to the 2015 that we saw yesterday, it's only a year younger, but it's much, much more yellow and less sort of rich orangey gold colour. I mean, there's still quite a nice sort of golden note to that yellow, but it's distinctly yellow as opposed to orange or gold. Let's have a look at the aromas. The aromas are very apple-y. It's a bruised apple note, it's a toffee apple note. There is a top note of sort of maybe delicate apricot, mandarin orange, those sort of lifted sort of orange notes there. So there's some sweetness, a little bit of honeyness, maybe a little bit of caramel, but underlying all that, and as the initial main flavour, the apple notes. So let's have a taste. On the palate, that's noticeably sweet, but it's not quite to the level of a honeyed sweetness that the 2015 was. There are honey notes on it, but there's much more of the sort of green apple freshness coming through, almost a sort of a note of the apple peel, sort of adding a tiny little sort of phenolic edge, which is nice. The freshness really comes through very well, giving it balance. The sweetness is not to a level that you'd get with a sort of a dessert wine completely. It's sort of medium sweet to sweet. I would guess sort of 60-70 grams per litre of sugar, but hard to tell with such nice freshness. It could be higher. There are no notes of oak. This has had quite a sort of a simple élevage, and it's really just been developing in bottle. There are those hints of apricot, orange peel. They're not quite as pronounced as they were on the nose. This is more of a sort of a rounded sweet wine with touches of honey, but with that sort of bruised apple, apple skin, red apple, those sorts of notes. There is a caramelised note, the sort of toffee apple note. It's quite a simple wine, but there's a nice harmony. The length is good. The alcohol doesn't seem particularly high. That says it's 11.5%. So really, that's probably helping its freshness. A wine that's aged really nicely. I wouldn't suggest that it's a wine for keeping any longer, but not a wine that's in decline. So 2 or 3 years more wouldn't be a problem. These wines can age pretty well if they're from a decent vintage. So I hope this is interesting. Hopefully you'll try some Chenin Blanc. It's a variety that can vary from year to year because of vintage variation so much that there's often a surprise in terms of the style and the quality. So as I say, thank you for watching. Do join us again, and please feel free to like and share. Bye now.